So we start?
Give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1, take.
Welcome back to the second part of the second session of this debate. Here we will go a little deep into issues of prosecution, the role of forensics, the linkages, alleged linkages between the drug dealers and drug system and politics. So we'll discuss issues that are more serious and we'll go for the jugular, as it were. I'll start with Advocate Vikram Verma. Vikram, you were talking about this whole issue of prosecution and investigating murders. You obviously kind of have been in the thick of things in many of these murder cases. Where do you think the delay in investigations happens? What are the flaws which leads to the accused getting away?
See, I think the first level of delay here is that we don't have a dedicated homicide department. So a police inspector in charge of a police station who is looking after large number of things, right? He may find that he doesn't have the time and energy required for the kind of investigation a homicide needs out there.
Right.
So there have been a number of cases where the police have preferred to call a sort of a homicide as an accidental death, or a murder as an accidental death, or a natural death, or something of that sort. They have not informed the forensic department of the exact findings what they found at the scene of crime. And they have, after taking the forensics reports, they have interpreted any kind of findings as a cause for a conclusion of a natural death, or maybe an unnatural death at the most. Now this results in not filing of an FIR. An FIR is filed normally when there is a cognizable crime committed. Now if you do not file an FIR immediately, then the gathering of evidence, right, which is a critical sort of portion for the trial, is not done. And this eventually leads to an acquittal out there. But if you have, and then the mindset is, what I find is, despite glaring evidence of suspicion, I'm not saying it's evidence for a conviction. This is evidence for a suspicion, right? If glaring evidence of suspicion, the police still have preferred not to file an FIR. And the delay is fatal,
right,
in the trial later on.
Vikram, since you are so closely involved in the Scarlet killing case, can you extrapolate what you just said generally and apply it to the Scarlet killing case and give us a better example of how it happened?
Yes, on the ground, what happened was, when Fiona came to me and she had explained to me that people...
One second, the sound has to stop. Yeah, let me just stop it now, because in the editing that sound will come. This construction is going on, the workers come. Normally we have the debates in the evening, they're not used to a morning debate. So, they're not told. They went to the Supreme Court also, no? The accused, the convicted?
No.
They did not go?
They did not go.
So are they still in jail?
Yes.
Both are in jail? Shana Boy and the other one?
No, Shana Boy died.
Shana Boy died, correct.
Died.
The Samson is still in jail?
He's in jail.
Okay.
That was a long walk.
But it's a life imprisonment?
No. They treated, the CBI sort of downgraded it to 304 Part 2.
Okay.
Which meant a maximum of 10 years.
So he'll be out?
Yeah, I think 2029.
29?
He would be out.
Yeah.
Yes. So in that particular case, the sort of
in the Scarlet killing case.
Yes. The incident happened on the 18th of February 2008, and there were a number of injuries on the body. So if it would have been a police officer who was trained in homicide, that would have given him enough reason to register a 302 FIR and begin the investigations immediately. But the sort of I think they were probationary officers who went out there. They collected the body, they sent it for the autopsy, and in that Fiona was called, and she was told that the girl went swimming.
Fiona being the mother for viewers.
Yeah, she went swimming in the sea and she died. And 3 days later, when Fiona came to me, she said, I don't trust the police because all the local people who have met me, have informed me that she was murdered. It's after all a small village, and people who commit crime, somebody sees it, they all discuss, and they know exactly what's happened. The only people who do not know are the citizens and other people. So she wanted some assistance in the matter. So we said, okay, I'm not going to push for an FIR until I see that there is some evidence of suspicion. So we contacted the forensic department. We went, we saw the body, and we saw the injuries which were there. Based on that, we asked we wrote a letter to the Anjuna police that there is cause of suspicion because of injuries, and an FIR should be registered. Their response was, you contact the DYSP. His response was, you contact the SP. And like this, there was a substantial delay. Now, these are police officers. They know that when a murder happens, the scene of crime has to be sealed off, evidence has to be collected, and all that can be done only when an FIR is registered out there. If you have a sort of a principle of registering an unnatural death, and 6 months later you register an FIR, or 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, a substantial portion of the evidence will be destroyed. And what it means is either an acquittal or a murder to be reduced to culpable homicide not amounting to murder.
Right.
And on the ground, this means that a person who must face life imprisonment ends up facing a maximum of 10 years with a huge amount of effort from the side of the prosecution out there. So here I found there was a huge sort of loss because of the delay in registering of the FIR out there. And this came because the local police concluded that this was a case of an accidental death, and they announced it in the media also.
Dr. Sapeko, see, this is obviously going to be an uncomfortable question because it also reflects on a department that you've gloriously served, but you've also been a victim of circumstances, political or otherwise, and we all are aware of that. Could you take this occasion to open up, and we would be grateful if you do so for the benefit of Goa as a whole, as to how the forensics department is unfortunately become a political tool in most of these investigations? If you could give it with examples, we'll be very grateful.
I fully concur with what Sir Vikram has said. We need to have a police officer who is in LLB, the least, because he is the person who knows the tenets of law. And there are police officers who are police inspectors and DYSPs who are LLB.
Right.
Definitely they'll be able to take the investigation. But the most important part is that the police investigating system should take the forensic doctor, forensic scientist, and visit together at the scene of crime. And this omission till today, right from 2008, is going on.
In each and every case.
In each and every case where it is overlooked.
Right.
They don't want to work in a teamwork spirit. In fact, the other day I was talking to Mr. Bagmare, who is the present director of the FSLF. They not even brought in confidence. Prior to that, they want to visit the scene of crime. No, it has not been done. Now there is a new National Forensic Science University which has been opened at Kurti Ponda. Another teaching institution. They are also not brought in confidence. They are saying, no, we will sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. When? I don't know when will be the sunrise or the sunset. So what I am saying, somebody should bail the cat and the consequences. But what is primarily important is that today all of us have to be united. Forensic medicine doctors, police investigation officer, forensic scientist, serologist, with a CCTV camera team. They should go to the scene of spot, first screen the area, educe the evidence. After educing the evidence, then only you send the dead body. Today this is not happening. And in fact, this omission is beneficial to the alleged accused persons. They get the benefit of doubt, and that is how the cases go for acquittal.
I'll again come back to my question again. Doctor, if you could just tell us, see, there is this charge, not on the department as it were, but generally there is a charge or a very strong feeling that the delay in either in the manner in which the postmortem report is conducted, or the final findings of the postmortem which are recorded, there could be a motive behind every word, every comma, every full stop, what is written, what is not written, and a lot of this manipulation happens because of the urgency on part of the political system to actually take the side of the accused rather than take the side of the victim. Firstly, how true is that, and what are your experiences with regard to this particular point that I've raised?
I wouldn't fully concur with your views, sir, but I feel there is a part of the system which is working in this direction in order to benefit the alleged accused either by the omission or by the commission. But what is very, very essential is that it is doctor is an easy target.
Right.
Their own brothers and sisters can work against the own system, and united we stand, divided we fall. So when they are divided, it is easy to crush each of them. I think the doctors community till today, that in Goa Medical College, the consultants and the heads of departments are not united.
Right.
Super specialty block is coming up only with the existing people in this. Who is looking after all this? One man cannot look after, but it is everybody is pressurized or tortured to take up the system. But somebody should be a facilitator at this time of crisis to ensure that the norms laid down by the National Medical Commission or by the earlier Medical Council of India should be adhered to perfection.
Right.
Who is the watchdog to watch all this? There is no watchdog.
Correct. Correct.
What I plead is that if there is a watchdog to ensure that these things are observed, not by the breach, but by the practice, then only the system will be.
So, sir, coming to the Scarlet Killing case itself, since that we use that as a base for the whole demise of the system, as it were. If you look at the forensic report, there was a big difference between what you found. Correct me if I am wrong, but I'm just placing what we know on the table, and what your junior at that point of time found. I will not name the particular doctor, but we all know who we are talking about. And the issue is that initially it was so strange, as hindsight proves, that the report of your junior was ultimately found to be a mistake rather than your report, which was thought to be a mistake. And the CBI relied on your findings to finally lead to the conviction. Since it is a matter of public record, we would like you to talk about it.
I said, whatever you have said is the truth, whole truth and the gospel truth. I am thankful to the learned CBI public prosecutor, Mr. Ejaz Khan. He was so nice and so cooperative in the case, where he was able to convincingly put forth the facts before the trial judge. And he is the one who has done lot of work, obviously behind the screen, is sir, who has also extended his helping hand and ensured that the chain of evidence was fortified and ensured that conviction.
So what was there in your version of the forensic report, which finally was found to be true?
The injuries which I had made a mention, the queries that were raised by the investigating agency were all answered with documentary evidences and supportive corroborative evidence of authorities from textbooks and of authorities which would convincingly say that it was an unnatural death wherein the element of homicide cannot be ruled out but has to be confirmed. The confirmation theory comes from the police investigating agency. If they tend to see no evil, hear no evil and do no evil, then sorry, we cannot do anything much. What we need is a good watchdog system.
But unfortunately, fingers can be pointed at the department itself when there are two contrary reports, and one report delays the investigation and derails it, and another report puts it back on track. It kind of says its own story without.
May I answer that?
Yes.
See, I went through both the reports in detail, and I remember them very clearly. Right.
Sure.
Now, as far as Dr. Sapiko's report was concerned, it was the injuries were grouped together. So if there were 3 injuries on a particular portion, he marked them as a group of injuries out there. And as per the testimony of the police officer, Lakshmi
Amonkar.
What he has testified in court, that these injuries were pointed out by Dr. Sapiko to Lakshmi Amonkar. Dr. Sapiko also explained to him exactly how the murder happened, because Lakshmi Amonkar was a probationary officer and Dr. Sapiko had considerable experience. He knew exactly how things had happened. This is the testimony he has provided to the court. He has also further said that with the sort of information and guidance of Dr. Sapiko, he came back and he told his police inspector that this is how this murder has happened and we need to register the 302. His police officer's superior told him, what does the doctor know? Right? This has to be recognized as a accidental death. I will take care of it. Now, this is not something which is not off the record. It's on the record, and it has evidentiary value.
Right.
So, to my mind, the forensic report provided by Dr. Sapeko and the sort of information provided was absolute and complete to register a 302 immediately.
Right.
He was blamed for not providing it, and that sort of allegation was false, to my mind.
Right. So, actually, on a lighter note, you always need a lawyer to come, establish facts better than
that is why they are called learned defense counsel.
Tajan Bab, just wanted to ask you this. Now, the thing is, why doesn't the society, and you mentioned it earlier also, speak openly about this nexus? There seems to be an open nexus. If you see, not only in this case, you find so many other cases. You find the case of the two alleged drug dealers, one was Dudu and one was Atala. And we all know the kind of remarks one of them made, where a politician's son was kind of directly or indirectly named. Okay, but that again is a tip of the iceberg. What we need to know here is that the whole nexus between politics and the world of drugs appears to be very intense. Why is there not so much of voicing of this?
The voicing cannot be done here in the state because they have the security of their life. You are dealing with people who can just wipe you out and you will not even be looked after. See, we do not have a proper investigative system. And if there is if the case collapses, the investigating officer and all those who are involved are all left scot-free.
Right.
Had they been brought to books, you pass court pass strictures, what happens? Nothing happens.
Correct.
They are suspended for 2 months, third month they are back inside.
Right.
So when the system is not prepared to protect the citizen, as I told you, the state is the guardian of a citizen. If I am allowed to speak, I am allowed to speak free. But after I speak free, what is going to happen to me? I don't know. So why will anybody take the risk? And many people have faced the brunt of this. Government officers who are working honestly, like Dr. Sapeko, have faced the brunt of it for being honest in your job. So how do you...
I am reminded of the SP Vijay Singh, if I am not mistaken, a very good SP of North Goa,
Yes.
who apparently took on some of the noted
You have a very prominent politician
right,
who says, I know all the names, I have given it to the chief minister. And now what is happening? Openly he comes out to say that the names are given to the chief minister. You know it. The late chief minister.
Yes.
Now why is the present chief minister quiet?
Right.
If you have the names so bluntly, and nobody is getting caught.
Right.
So what are we exactly saying? Are you putting that as a bait? That Baba, is it a blackmail? I know the name, so I should make it. What other explanation is there in that? There's no other explanation that I can see.
Also, the other issues, I'll just extend this question a little bit more. See, if you see the entire belt, of course, it has moved to the other areas, but if you look at the whole, let's say Kalangod constituency and say the Perne constituency, if you look at these two.
Take the coastal.
Yeah, okay. Shioli, Kalangod, Perne. Yeah, the three assembly constituencies. Yes. Okay. Now, if you look at these three assembly constituencies, the presence of drug dealers of every kind. There are Nigerian drug dealers, there are European drug dealers, there are Indian drug dealers, there are gangs. We all remember, I think about in 2012 there was this murder of the Nigerian, and then how his body was kind of kept on the national highway, and the Nigerians came and literally they were actually attacking the police. There, I remember. To give so-called justice to their fallen comrade. Okay, the point here is that the number of drug gangs is only increasing, even as the Hyderabad police has found out. Okay, they obviously have their godfathers in different places. Goa is also become known as a conduit for distribution of drugs. The Hyderabad incident has actually seen that drugs are coming into Goa.
And from Goa it is
so Goa is both an importer and exporter in that sense. Okay. The issue here is that we have agencies like the anti-narcotic cell, ANC, you have the local police, you have other crack squads. My issue is that why aren't these people equipped with not only equipment, better investigation tools, and staffed with officers with greater moral authority?
No, you cannot have that. The tools is not going to help you if your intention is not there at all.
Correct, that's what I said.
The tools are there if they want to, but there is no intention of getting caught. The whole moment there is a death and there is a drug, the immediate their whole attention is how to get the biggest cut inside. And therefore, drug angle, even now in this case, this present case,
So
drug angle being, they want to the property, they want why she was there. The drug is not being looked at.
Correct.
When it was brought into the hotel room and given to them. And then you say, colleagues, they spiked the drink after 2 days of watching the CCTV.
Correct.
First you say heart attack. See, the whole system is so, because they don't, even the authorities don't want to accept that she died out of drugs. If a bullet shot is gone and all that, they will do the investigation. But when it comes to drugs, and therefore till today, where is the Kenny Kingpin caught? Some fellow who brought it there at the gate, he's caught.
Right.
From where did he get it?
Right.
There are indications saying that there are some officers involved in this from where the original drug came. Because one thing is a fact. Whenever drug is caught, the correct quantity is not shown.
Right.
75 to 80% is kept behind.
Right.
And that is circulating in the market. Once again.
And you're saying this with full responsibility.
With full responsibility is a fact known. Everybody is talking about it. I'm not saying it. I'm telling you what the gossip is going on.
And we also hear that that the police has gone on record to say that all the drugs in the ANC Malkhana has been eaten by rats.
Eaten by rats.
Correct. Yes.
White ants.
White ants.
White ants.
Sorry, white ants. White ants. White ants. Correct. Right. Very drugged white ants. Okay, Dr. Sipeko, just while we are winding up, one more question. Now, in your vast experience, and there have been so many mysterious deaths of foreigners and others, what is your professional opinion on these cases? Is the drug angle there in most of these cases?
Yes. In fact, I remember asking a top official of both the executive and the investigating agency that I would love to escort them to show the angle. Every house or every bungalow which is having a 6 or 9 meter height is having drugs inside.
Seriously?
Yes, serious.
Where in that belt?
In the belt. So I told him, you just escort me. I'm going to take you, but you have the powers to enter inside.
But how did you come to that assessment?
Because it's a known fact. Everybody speaks that the drugs are coming out from those bungalows which are having 6 or 9 meter heights, and obviously there is somebody who's protecting them. And
I will just
Sure.
See, every death that has been registered as murder due to drugs, the person has been only convicted for murder and the drug
Correct.
that has not been taken seriously.
Right.
So it's totally under the control.
I'll just take it forward.
Sure.
See, in the Scarlet killing case also, the trial judge, very learned judge, it was her finding that from the testimony of the witnesses, from the forensic evidence, that the girl was given a large amount of narcotics. The witnesses said that in front of us she was given narcotics. So she said, despite overwhelming evidence of narcotics being provided to her, I see no action being taken by the anti-narcotic cell.
The trial judge actually said
The trial judge has recorded in a judgment out there. Right. And this casts a doubt on the credibility of the investigating agency. And the benefit of doubt should be given to the accused. So when there's so much evidence, right, and evidence normally reaches the court with great difficulty. Normally a witness who wants to give evidence, he is threatened, he is bribed, he is influenced. Don't go there or we'll finish you off. So when evidence reaches the court really appreciates the evidence that this has finally come. Right. So she has recorded that, like what Mr. Tojan said, that people, despite so much narcotics being sort of distributed, no action is being taken. And in this particular case, that was a result
of murder, which has evidence to say that it was drugged or he was drugged.
Right.
Has been taken forward for having given drugs.
Right.
Drug expert is totally kept and everybody is happy that he was convicted for murder.
Yes.
So how will the drug dealers get worried about? They are not worried.
See, in the handing over of the case to the CBI,
Right.
the Goa government, the chief secretary, had sort of clearly said to investigate the murder of Scarlett Keeling and any other issue related to that. So that gave a free hand both to the Goa police and to the CBI to investigate that angle also,
Right.
but which was not done.
Right. Dr. Subramanian, you were talking of those houses with 9 meters. Just tell us a little bit about more. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
On how you kind of zeroed in on that. That there are homes in that belt
Yes.
that are being used as storage
Correct.
for
Correct.
drugs.
Well, this is what has come from their own village, the neighbors.
Right.
They are the ones who came and leaked out this information. And when I brought it to the notice of the officials, appropriate authorities in power at that time, this is way back in 1990 I'm talking about.
Right.
At that time, they, by their omission, they allowed it to go, and still it is going on. And once in a blue moon, whenever they raid a so-called house, some small quantities are detected, and that's at the end of it. Nothing comes forward because
So what you are saying is that the majority of the cases that have come to you, majority of these dead bodies that have come to you in these mysterious cases,
Correct.
You have noticed you prima facie you realize that it's a drug case.
Yes.
But obviously because of delay in the Viscera report and others, they get passed off as unnatural deaths and the drug angle is not gone. That has happened in many cases.
Yes.
The delay in but isn't there any way that you can come to a conclusion without the Viscera final report? You cannot.
no, you see, sir, when the conviction has to occur, there must be a qualitative and quantitative analysis of the chemical analysis,
Right.
drug, named drug, and whether it has accelerated, precipitated, or caused the death, or the injuries were present or not.
No, but the investigating officer,
Yes.
as
Sir Vikram.
Vikram has said, that the moment you have suspected this drug, you let the murder angle be looked into. Immediately you should start investigation on the drug, from where it came, how it came,
Correct.
and you should have reached to the point.
Correct.
But here what they are doing, they're just keeping the drug part aside.
See, what happens is the money trail is never followed, the chain is never followed.
Never
It's
followed.
broken right there.
So-
which is why the Pritesh Borkers of the world roam around freely.
Really.
Before we conclude, a quick last session, last round on what are the solutions. Let's end with a hope that the system can still be fixed. So even if it's utopia, let us still talk about it.
Yes, I think here
Yes.
the key point has been raised by Dr. Sarpiko. Right? The phrase in English is thick as thieves,
Right.
not as thick as honest men. These people, they are really thick together. They know how to manipulate the evidence, how to delay things, they've got the whole system worked out beautifully.
Right.
While the honest people who are good citizens and who want to improve things, they're not together the way they should be. I mean, what he pointed out was the police needs to work closely with the forensics. Right? The forensics should be adequately equipped. There are good people. There are a large number of good people who would like to work and clean up the system. But it needs a good leadership to bring them together. A leadership which understands and has the ability to weave them together. And then we can defeat the narcotics problem, the plague.
Dr. Sarpiko, your last words on looking forward.
In fact, I always tell the investigating officers not to come with the same old notorious so-called stock witnesses who will turn hostile. I want government officials who are serving the government to be witnesses. They are highly impartial. They will speak the truth, whole truth and the gospel truth, and they will not resile the original statement. They will be scared of a charge of perjury against them, wherein they'll get a penalty of 7 years imprisonment. Has anyone seen the light of the day that anyone who has turned hostile, has he ever been prosecuted? The answer is no. So I think there is a need that someone has to bear the cat and the consequences and ensure that hereafter at least whoever is taking, because we have got a beautiful department called Director of Prosecution.
Right.
I know right from the time of Madam Shobha Dubaskar, Sir Anand Salkar, Desmond, and even now the President, Madam Sardina, we are efficient people. But do their words what they write implement it in letter and in principle? The answer is no. And therefore, I feel that the corroborative evidence needs to be fortified to ensure that the alleged accused becomes a convicted person. He undergoes the prison and then he comes out as a refined person in the society.
Thank you, Guru. Rajan, before we end, your final look ahead and
Final look is, I'll tell you,
Is there a ray of
they
hope?
have suggested,
Huh.
but I feel if the investigating officer who has failed to prove a case is given an exemplary punishment, I think the message will go down that I cannot play the fool. But today, losing a case is the officer getting promoted. See them, most of the officers who are promoted, you will see at least 50% cases they failed to prove.
Right.
Minimum I'm talking about. So if that is the case, so somewhere the system, and we have 75 years of...
And we are still discussing this
we are
one.
discussing a system
Correct.
to see that the crime is brought to its minimum, not to eliminate crime.
Right. We've unfortunately kind of run out of time. This discussion could have gone on for hours and hours with three such learned men discussing and deliberating. We wish there were more people like them in the system actually helping out rather than they being outside the system, as it were. But one will end with a slightly somber note, and I am struck by the phrase that Advocate Vikram used, thick as thieves, and that is something that kind of rings the strongest bell, and that I think sums up the whole debate. This whole phrase sums up the whole debate, because what happens is it is obvious that which side is stronger. It is not about which side is right or which side is wrong, but what is the sad takeaway is the side that is wrong in the eyes of the law, or should be wrong in the eyes of the law, that side happens to be stronger because of their the ease in which they manipulate the system. And the system doesn't only consist of thieves, as it were, quote unquote. I mean, the system also consists of men who are elected to protect the system and rule with integrity. Now, if you have cases getting brushed under the carpet, if you find your viscera report either not being preserved, or when it's preserved, never coming back on time. As Dr. Sapeko said shockingly that he has never seen a case where the viscera has come back in 15 days. Then it opens up this whole issue opens up the whole issue to reach only one conclusion, that the system is designed to protect the accused rather than protect the victims, which is why Goa is seen as a state, very sadly, notorious for these unnatural deaths happening, which do not lead to a final conviction of the people who are perpetrators of this crime. And it is sad to know that even now we have like a conglomeration of kith and kin of people who've been murdered in Goa, of foreigners in different parts of Europe and other places, who meet regularly to give each other support in trying to fight the system in Goa to get justice. And that still happens. I mean, we know so many people who do it. And that is what is sad, because all of them cannot be wrong. So that is where the issue lies, that Goa needs to be more responsible. And if you are more responsible, you will get better tourists to come. You will have the menace of drugs going out, not in the tourist belt, but in the villages itself. And ultimately, we will end up becoming a better and more responsible society. Because right now, what is happening is that the system is only feeding itself. Unscrupulous politicians are making money, and criminals are getting away with no justice to the victims and the unfortunate. On this note, I thank all my panelists for their very insightful comments and views, which has helped us to at least get a better picture of what is going on, and with a prayer that some solutions that they have suggested will fructify at some point of time. Thank you so much.